for the first part of this, I'm a Tano Circus in the background, working diligently to manifest excellence is Hobo. And I'm going to take this opportunity to first dive inside of Little Wargame and put streaming Little Wargame Mentor Tournament Week 3 show and games at www.twitch.tv/Hobo Turtles. That's right, Hobo Turtles. Although Hobo has, many interesting quirks as a human being, one of them has to be his ability to take care and safeguard the local wildlife bridge wherein he got his name to turn green. That is why he is the propensitor and the joy that is Hobo Turtles. And that is where the stream will be live. So we're going to go ahead and put that up there right now. I'm going to give maybe a minute or two, just so some people can pop into the chat. But we are, as they say, doing it live. And let's see who we've got in here. Excellent. Everything seems good to go. I'm going to dive into... Everyone knows what's going on. I'm going to dive back over here into Discord. A message to everyone, just in case they've missed it in some way. Streaming the Mentor Tournament Week 3 show and games. And twitch.tv/Hobo Turtles. That's right. Man who takes care of the turtles underneath of the bridge wherein he stays as a hobo, ever working diligently and manifesting excellence throughout the way. Okay, excellent. And so with that, now for the YouTube audience who will have no idea what has been going on and transpiring in the background. So, I'm a Tano Circus working diligently in the background. There is, of course, Hobo Turtles. And we're going to get into the Week 3 pre-show for the Mentor Tournament. What that means is that we have gone past Week 0, the preparatory stage, and we finished Weeks 1 and 2, meaning that most excellently, we can now get Week 3 started. But part of Week 2 ending involves bringing up that the old map has gone away and a new map is here to stay, at least for a period of 7 days. So, Week 2, we saw Xenos. Now we're going to go from Xenos to a map that is a little blockier, a little chokier, something that is a bit more constricting, at least in the beginning, and that may, despite its small size, lead to very long macro games. However, the short air distance between the two main bases may also mean that we will see plenty of games that involve a quick one base all-in rush tactic. And that is, of course, Cursed Temple. This map has been played to excellent effect by all manner of players with all manner of skills. We've seen things such as double mill gyrocraft, a castle first into an advanced workshop opening. You can also just do a 2-den and rush down your opponent. Proxy 2 racks is still very solid. There is a middle pathway that you can take through Cursed Temple to attack your opponent early, though it can be walled off, and defensive utility and workers, of course, can make it a bit easier to manifest and manage early defenses. One of the things that I liked most, of course, about Cursed Temple has to be that if you do get past the stage of the second base rush down, you can move forward and see that, once we get to the third base, if everyone has continued on, there are no problems. Then once we start taking third and fourth bases, it's very easy to defend these locations. A lot of high ground, and you'll find that players are contesting over the middle area cohesively. And in fact, it's not all uncommon, despite the fact that this is a very, let's say, gold mine dense map in Cursed Temple. It's not all that strange for battles to come down to who can control the middle area. So in terms of factional balances, the central rush path between both naturals means that while the distance is a little bit longer than the distance between both mains by air, it is still a more or less straight shot. That means that things like maybe double dens are very strong. We've certainly seen some good beast play throughout this tournament. Even double proxy racks is within the wheelhouse of players. Moving forward from there, we also have, as I said, for mech, there's a lot of high ground to abuse, and there's excellent ability to use gyrocrafts. The air distance is a little large for things like catapult drops, but that doesn't mean that they're completely out of play, as you can use them on the likely third and natural of the location. Max players will also be satisfied with the large number of bases that they'll be able to take, and the Beast players, while finding their style a little more cramped in terms of the distance that the map offers, will nevertheless be satisfied by being able to take advantage of all of the bit mines and high ground that is available, just not to the same extent that they could perhaps take advantage of a larger map. And so that's it. Your week 3 of the mentor tournament. By the way, Hobo is doing work in the background now, so I will just relay the message of Gopnik 2006, who just says, "Why Discord light mode? Why? Because we all live in our own worlds, and I would not impugn the integrity of Hobo's world if I find that he is using light mode, and it is an offense to humanity." But moving on from there, and our collective failings aside, while that has been the introduction of the map, it will in fact be Cursed Temple. Yes. And Gopnik says, "Oh, Hobo, Therx v Doomster was 2-1 in favor of a certain player." I'll just let you check the Twitch chat so you can go ahead and see that just in case. But with that, with Cursed Temple being introduced, and now that we're on to week 3, you might be very invested in knowing who in fact is going to be playing in week 3. Who are your opponents in week 3? And that's certainly something that we can get into on the grand order of right now. So let me bring up the little note that I have over here. Excellent. These are the games that each of the players will be playing, their matchups for week 3. Kaitaro will be placing against Red, someone we've also called Ruadh, but Red, Ruadh. So Kaitaro will be against Red, and Kaitaro will be playing against Doomster. Jy will be playing against Therx, and Jy will also be playing against Doomster. WeirdRat will be playing against Therx, quite a hefty week for Therx, as it turns out, but WeirdRat will also be playing BabyMight. Therx will be playing Jy, and Therx will be playing WeirdRat, and these next kind of matchups that I'll detail here have been said in reverse, but I'll say them again just for anyone who's listening. BabyMight will be playing against WeirdRat and Felipebrazil. Red will be playing versus Kaitaro and Felipebrazil. Felipebrazil will be playing against BabyMight and Red. And finally, Doomster will be playing against Kaitaro and against Jy. With that, because this is the nature of the broadcast, it's going to be a bit quick. I'm just going to go over some of my quick thoughts. And of course, because we have the fine people of the Twitch community and the LittleWarGame community live here, I am sure that we will get into what their thoughts are on my thoughts as we advance through week 3 of this tournament and get on to casting week 2 matches. So with that, with the week 3 matches, Kaitaro versus Red. I have seen some very surprising results over on the part of Red. I have seen other people say that Red is quite surprising in the skill that they've managed to pull off, and that WeirdRat looks a little bit shaky. That said, or not WeirdRat, but and that Kaitaro has been here or there, and it's unknown exactly what their involvement is or how well they're doing. I think that if the games actually get played, it will be to the strength of Kaitaro, but I do think that it will be 2-1 in favor of Kaitaro. We get to Kaitaro versus Doomster. I don't want to take anything away from Doomster. Doomster, as you will see when we start casting week 2 games, has had some surprising improvement in form. It seems like their time with the mentor, Satsetananda, has really helped them. However, Kaitaro's mentor is Therx, and I do believe that no matter how grand Doomster's improvement and how excellent Satsetananda is as a coach, that the combination of Therx being a strong player and someone that Kaitaro respects, and they have good synergy between one another, if those games manifest, will prove a bridge too far over there for Doomster. This is not to impugn Doomster's ability to learn. I could certainly be surprised to see a 2-1, but in terms of raw prediction, I'm going to have to go with Kaitaro is going to be the winner here, 2-0. Next, we have Jy versus Therx and Jy versus. The issue of Jy versus Therx, I'm actually going to suggest that Jy has something of a mental block or a mental concern going against Therx. There was a lot of hype around Therx. This is most noticeable in the power rankings that people did for the February Cup, and in seeing how Therx, who is of course in the mentor tournament a student, nevertheless stacked up and made a good accounting for themselves in that February Cup anyone can join environment. Problem here is that I think that JY, it can be Therx's equal, but Therx will be the one, JY will be the one who has to prove it. And the problem with mental blocks tends to be that, yes, can something be a 2-1? It certainly can. It's more likely to go ahead and be a 2-0. And so I do think that while JY's skill is up to the task, I don't think that JY is going to be like in the right mental space in order to combat that. I'm going to say 2-0 in favor of Therx. JY versus Doomster. As we've seen in other areas of LittleWarGame, JY can be something of a heel, right? Can be the kind of person who, but it's not in the wrestling sense truly that they believe that they are, putting on the show of being better than some people. I believe JY has genuine confidence. And again, while Doomster made a good accounting for themselves for the last week, I do think that JY is an opponent who, now that the experience is being properly aligned inside of the underneath the tutelage of AC, even if that is something that JY is incorporating, and perhaps the coaching is less do this every minute of every day, JY seems to be incorporating it. And I think that the combination of JY's starting point and with JY's mentor being AC and the excellence that's been done there means that I think that once again, unfortunately, Doomster is going to do well to take a game here, but that's just it. Would do well to take a game doesn't mean that I can say that JY would in fact drop a map. And I think that there's some more evidence to that borne out. If we get into casting the week 2 games later, you will see what I'm talking about there. I think that that's going to be JY winning 2-0. WeirdRat versus Therx. So the problem here for WeirdRat is as follows. I think that if this becomes Therx is playing Rax against if Therx is playing Beast against WeirdRat's Rax, that could be quite difficult. Therx has shown themselves to actually, one way I would contextualize Therx's growth is that Therx understands that particular matchup very well. That seems to be the area of strength that Therx is capable of manifesting. If WeirdRat goes into that blindly or goes into that playing Rax, I do think that Therx is going to be favored. However, it's not beyond the possibility that WeirdRat will adjust and win. But I will say right now, going in, based off of what I know of both of the players, I do suspect that Therx is going to win 2-1. I don't know if WeirdRat is going to think I have to change my game plan against Therx. Therefore, I will give it to Therx. This, however, is a very swinging matchup and depends on the preparation that both players bring in. That's the context I would provide. Next, we have WeirdRat versus BabyMight. The issue here with WeirdRat versus BabyMight is as follows. I don't think that this is, once again, like BabyMight has inarguably improved. I remember week 0 talk of or watching BabyMight's games. BabyMight was the kind of person who would do builds that were just nonsensical, or in a LittleWarGame context, we would suggest would lose you the game immediately. Things like, not quite on the level of first building tower, but nevertheless, like not optimized in any kind of way for a serious, lengthy game. And that's kudos on the part of BabyMight and Human and the unique training method that they've been able to come up with to push BabyMight to the place that BabyMight is at. Unfortunately, WeirdRat is far too above the level of BabyMight in my estimation, and it would require a lot for WeirdRat to lose a single game. And I would put it that way, not for BabyMight to win, but WeirdRat would have to lose a game. If you understand that distinction, you can understand why I think that WeirdRat is going to take this 2-0. Halfway through the predictions, some of these predictions are going to start sounding roundabout or in repetition to one another. So let's go ahead and drop on. The link has already been dropped. Hobo doing excellent work in the background. Well, thank you, Hobo. You're a master of your craft, as it turns out. So we're going to get back into some of these predictions. They're going to go the other way. Some of them are going to sound very familiar. Therx versus JY. Once again, I think that Therx is going to win 2-0 purely because of a mental block on the part of JY with relation to Therx. JY did an interview where JY said Therx is the number one, like, S tier, just a cut above everybody else. And I don't know if that's true or if JY is going to make that true. But still,
I do think I would contest that one. Looking
Okay.
at this week, Red was able to take the series from Therx
Okay.
and 2-1, whereas JY was able to beat Red 2-1. This very
I
well
see.
could be from Red improving, but that might help with that mental block that you were talking about.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. The next one, if you're available to do such, is Therx versus WeirdRat. I made my feelings quite well known on this. I think this will be a 2-1 only because the way that WeirdRat seems to naturally play leads into what Therx seems, this is so strange in a low wargame context, to just be like a sniper for, to have an excellent matchup in. So I think that WeirdRat might be able to make something different and awkward enough to take a game. But if neither player prepares beyond, well, I'll just show up on the day and see what my game is, then I think that's going to go very well for Therx.
I'd agree there.
Okay. Next aspect there is BabyMight versus WeirdRat.
I do
And
favor
BabyMight,
WeirdRat in that situation. Uh,
yes, for much the same reason, right? Or do you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
there's a couple things holding BabyMight back. One of it is the general game knowledge. You see him expand. Once he learns that expanding is good, he'll do nothing but expand. He sees that snakes are useful, so he'll go mass snake and ignore wolves completely. He'll do a push that gets moderate success and then just kind of like stagnate on that. So once he learns how to start putting some of the different pieces together, I think he will improve. But as long as he's just getting one thing done each game, it's not going to be effective at getting the win.
Yep, I would agree with that characterization. Again, BabyMight is, if we're talking about most improved, if you want to consider where BabyMight started, BabyMight is doing a lot better in taking these things on board and just seems to be of a higher level than they started with in terms of just from where they started to where they are now. But there's a reason it's easier to grow at the beginning, especially if the learning is haphazard or not fully incorporated. I think WeirdRat's too put together and poised as a player in comparison to someone like BabyMight. Then we've got BabyMight versus Felipebrazil. Here's the thing. I actually will give this to Felipe, and that's going to be a bit of good news for Felipe because Felipe has definitely not had all of the success that I know that their hard work has warranted. I do think that BabyMight can do something here. But if I had to put odds on it, I do think Felipe can 2-0 this. Just because like I have seen practice and I've seen the games of both players, and unless BabyMight does something that just really frustrates and gets under Felipebrazil, and it would have to be like a quick cheese or something like that. Maybe if BabyMight practices something like that to get into Felipe, whoops.
That's a bit loud.
Maybe if Felipe, it is, isn't it? Oh, maybe if Felipe gets inside of, maybe if BabyMight gets inside of Felipe's head, and there's something to play for there. I think that's too much to ask for, and that it's kind of grasping at straws because I haven't seen BabyMight. Like BabyMight has been, as their name would imply, a little BM at times, but I don't think that's enough to rattle someone like Felipebrazil. Um, Especially not with the number of games and you've got to have some mental fortitude to have practiced as much and then lost as much as Felipe has against these better players. So it'll probably be smooth sailing once they realize, oh, I'm up against BabyMight. Okay.
I do
That's not
have a
to impugn
question.
BabyMight's progress, but yes.
Um, JY was saying that there was lag on the stream. Want to
Yes.
just check to see if that's on his end or if that's with you as well?
Yeah, we can certainly test that. Is there any way that you could load up a replay or something like that? Just shortly in the background while we go over some of the additional matchups. I can watch the video, let you know how that's going, and then we can continue with the matchups before we get into the next part. I have not personally noticed anything on my end. It doesn't seem to stutter on my end. Again, that doesn't mean that JY isn't experiencing that. That is entirely possible. That's entirely feasible, but it doesn't seem to have issue. Yeah, JY says that it was on their end. So I'm
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry to hear that, JY, but I am glad I'm glad that that is not an issue of stream quality. Let's put it that way. Again, I would wish that things would be better for you so that you can enjoy and watch. But I am glad that it's not an issue on our end. So, moving on from there, Red versus Kaitaro. I said that Kaitaro, if the game goes, if the games go on, I do think that Kaitaro is favored here over Red. I don't remember if I said 2-0 or 2-1, but I believe I said 2-1. Could be mistaken.
I believe,
Do you have
based
anything
off just how much they've been playing recently, I favor Red in this case over Kaitaro 2-0.
Okay. Wow. No, if you're right, I'll be completely wrong because
Just based off how much they've been playing and practicing.
It's true.
Taro would be coming in with a lot of rust on his gears.
Do you think their level is close enough that an improving player versus a stagnant or not playing player, that dynamic gets to come into play, gets to come out in full?
If it does go 2-1 in favor of Kaitaro, he loses game 1.
That's going to be interesting to watch. I'm going to be really. That's going to be really interesting to watch.
He would need to lose game 1 and then regain all the things he needs by the end of the series, unless he does practicing during the week.
That's why you emphasize the rust, is that Kaitaro will actually have to just get a loss out underneath of them just to get their hands warmed up and get practice
Get their head in
a
it.
feel for things again. Okay. Yeah, all right. I'll be curious to see how that turns out. We've got Red versus Felipebrazil. So here's the thing with Felipebrazil. I know that they've both Red and Felipebrazil have been practicing a lot. So I don't like saying things are a toss-up. Genuinely, though, if I said it was one or the other, I don't really have an angle with which to say. Because Red has been playing a lot, does seem to be picking up things well, but Felipe is also constantly on, also getting games with Norm and watching replays and doing things of that nature. I can't say one way or the other.
I tentatively would say I favor Red here, on the account of beating Therx.
Yes, and the thing is with Red is that, again, like Red. Okay, so for people who have not watched the games, I will just say I personally, and behind the scenes, I'll say this: Felipe has had. There is one issue of Felipe's game that I don't know how skilled Red is in that particular area of the game, and it's very particular. So I don't want to just out and out say it. But you can watch the games and kind of piece things together. So I don't know if Red is strong enough in that area to overcome Felipe, but that's just a case of I don't know. And then we did Felipe versus BabyMight. I believe I went over there. No, were you here when we went over that?
I believe I was vaguely listening in.
Okay. So Felipe versus BabyMight, I said that this is going to be an opportunity for Felipe to show exactly, that they are a good player, that they have been playing well, that they can practice, and that their efforts are worth it. I think Felipe can beat BabyMight 2-0. The only way that it goes even a game in favor of BabyMight is if somehow it finds out that Felipe has very thin skin, or it gets sucked into BM, or gets hit with like a very strong early practice tactic. But that assumes a lot on the part of BabyMight.
There's another thing that
I haven't seen.
In one of the earlier games with BabyMight, we saw that he went for an interesting 3-base around his opponent for his expansions, and then kind of was able to just slowly whittle down his opponent and make them think that they had the entire map. If something like that happens again where he's not scouted, that could lead to a potential BabyMight win.
Okay. So you think that it would be, if Felipe expects that there's an entirely standard game and just takes that on faith, then he might find himself losing a game?
Mm-hmm. It all will come down to scouting.
Do you think that it's going to be Felipe 2-1 then, or are you willing to say that it's a toss-up?
I'm willing to say it would be a 2-0, If not, it would be a 2-1. Again, depending on if he doesn't scout any kind of cheese like that.
Okay. And then we just went over Felipe versus Red. So there's no like we did just 2 matchups ago. I don't think we have to do it again. But then there's Doomster versus Kaitaro. I said that Doomster did well to get a game off of did well to get the games that they got this week. And Kaitaro might be coming in. Now that you mentioned Kaitaro's coming in with Rust, again, you've got this thing of Doomster's practicing, seems to be on the come up. Kaitaro, don't know where Kaitaro's head's at in terms of playing. But I think that this is a 2-1, I want to say, or 2-0, I believe I said. Basically, Kaitaro's level, in my estimation, is a bit too high. But where would you put Doomster versus Kaitaro?
I would say have to favor Kaitaro, just based off macro and micro I've seen from him and the general game knowledge. But again, the rust factor.
Yes. I have faith in the concept of there is a rust factor, there is ring rust, right? You have to get yourself into form. The person who's in form, you might, if they're in form and improving, then they might reach up to new heights that will surprise you. But I think that's maybe too much to overcome, just because of where Kaitaro sits in relation to Doomster.
It also depends on how much Kaitaro plays during the week before the matches.
The same thing against Red, right? Like there's a world in which Kaitaro loses a game simply because of Rust trying to get into the games.
Well, without further ado, do we have anything else we want to say on this week? The map is Cursed Temple. We've gone through the matchups and general predictions.
I believe I didn't hear your predictions for this final one because it was done a bit earlier. Doomster versus JY. I think JY wins 2-0 because JY has shown that he does believe that he can stomp people.
Well,
and I don't know
we're
if
going to see later on this week. Spoiler alert, by the way. Doomster can handle cheese. I see a potential avenue of it being 2-1 in favor of JY, where he wins game 1, then does some kind of cheese game 2, and then fails at the cheese, only to then go on and play a standard game in 1.
Mention the question in the chat, and for what JY's matches are, and then without further ado, what do you say we take it to the next section?
Excellent. Felipe pointing out that he has a chance of winning a match this week. A lot of his matches were not overwhelming losses. A lot of them were close. And if anything, I think going forward with the next 2 weeks really for the matchups here, he's going to have a much easier time.
Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing. I've also noticed that I won't make this too long a point, but whenever you're learning things, it does become the case that it feels like disparate learning until you start integrating them. And then once you integrate, like, it really builds on how much effort you put into the first part of it. You can't control quite how high your high gets after that, but you can hit surprising heights. So with that, I believe the thing we've been doing is shutting down the stream, then going on into casting games.
I believe we will not need to close the stream this time through the magic of video editing.
Technology.
Yeah, it turns out duct tape improves your technology level on your pizza box laptops.
I would expect a man named Hobo living under a bridge, taking care of the local turtle population, would know all about keeping duct tape, crap tops, whatever they're called, stuck together just long enough to make something happen.
It's like if anyone here is familiar with Warhammer, orcs in it make technology by believing in it collectively. Like they believe the color red makes things go faster. So if you paint an orc red, they move faster. Or purple actually can make them go invisible.
Wow, okay.
So if enough hobos believe that duct tape will make your computer go faster, it will run faster. So starting with Our
All
first matchup
unreasonable.
we're going to be
Alright, come
playing
on.
today is Doomster versus Red.
Okay. Wish I had a time machine or had loaded up the Twitch so I could just see what I predicted this would be.